For the second panel today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Dean Orr, farmer and graduate student, and Chris Franck, CEO of 4-H Canada. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll begin with your opening remarks before we move to questions from members. You will each have 5 minutes, and I'll try to get your attention when you've got about 1 minute left. So we are now going to start with Mr. Orr. The floor is yours.
Great. Hello, good evening everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be back in front of the Senate Agriculture and Forestry Committee, talking about two of my favorite things, agriculture and land use planning, and how they both impact food security. My name is Dean Orr. I'm a young full-time farmer. My family's farm is just north of Toronto, on the outskirts of the GTA, where we grow grains, maple syrup, some poultry, and do seed cleaning. I'm also a master's student at the University of Guelph, studying rural planning and development. My thesis is in calculating how much farmland Ontario needs to feed itself and what preserving a minimum amount of farmland might look like in planning practice. Land use planning has been a passion of mine for years, as I have seen my peri-urban farm community dissolve before my eyes to be replaced by inefficient and expensive sprawl. Food security is relevant when a parent has to wonder where their next meal is coming from. It is also relevant on a much broader scale. Can our province feed itself? Can our nation feed itself? Does that answer change with our ability to trade with other countries? Land use planning is the basis for food security. If we don't have our agricultural resources, we can't grow food. As simple as that. Ontario has been losing agricultural land at an astounding rate, much of it due to poor land use planning. Since 1941, we have lost 50% of our agricultural land, or 11.5 million acres. The latest census of agriculture states that Ontario has lost 319 acres per day, just under 1% of our agricultural land per year over the last 5 years. Ontario's farmland is the crown jewel of Canada's agricultural resources, with higher soil class, longer growing season, and some of the best and most consistent rainfall and weather, making it an irreplaceable national resource. Over 50% of Canada's Class 1 soils are located in Ontario. In provincial planning policy in Ontario, there exist requirements to plan for certain things to keep pace with the forecasted population. Housing, municipal water and sewer infrastructure, employment are some examples. Missing from this list is agriculture. There are no requirements for maintaining a minimum amount of agricultural land to guarantee food supply for any given population. Nowhere in Canada does this exist, in fact. As other development needs are demonstrated, planners have a legal duty to override protections put on agricultural lands because there is no backstop, no minimum requirement for farmland. These decisions, made over and over, have cut deep into our agricultural resources. People assuming that we have more than enough agricultural land is something I have heard many times. Wondering whether that was actually true has inspired my research at the university. Early stages indicate that we do not, in fact, have an abundance of agricultural land. Depending on the diet scenario, Ontario may be short up to 30 million acres of enough agricultural land to feed itself. If we zoom out to a national scale, Canada may only have just enough agricultural land to feed itself. Our research is ongoing, and I'll be happy to send along drafts of the manuscript as we near completion in the fall. It begs the question, how do we do a better job at protecting our farmland? No-go areas for development, where development is expressly forbidden on our farmland, will be necessary. Provinces will have to be responsible for this, however. The federal government will have to respond differently, not having jurisdiction over land use planning. Here are 6 suggestions to help curb farmland loss from a federal level. 1. The easiest, cheapest, and most effective solution is for the federal government to require provinces to report on how much farmland they have, how much they are gaining and losing, and what the methods of loss are. Require they calculate how much land they need to feed their populations. Now, I'm no constitutional expert, but this should stay within the division of powers while providing the provinces and the public with critical information they need to better manage their resources. Additionally, the federal government could, 2, provide a funding stream to NGOs whose sole aim is to protect farmland, such as the Ontario Farmland Trust. 3, continue to influence land use planning decisions that impact agricultural land by providing funding for what we do want to see. For example, providing federal dollars for building housing only within urban boundaries, only building missing middle density housing, or locating housing or industry on Canadian shield cities incapable of agriculture. 4. Examine the role of agriculture in the division of powers and what additional powers may be used to protect agricultural lands. 5. Involve multiple levels of government to coordinate the protection of farmland. Recent research out of the University of Guelph has shown that higher levels of municipal government are able to better provide the resources and coordination to better support agriculture and protect farmland. And finally, 6. Have the Senate specifically study farmland loss in Canada and what can be done to decrease or eliminate it. Agriculture is an end use for the land. It is not development in waiting, and needs to be protected as such to maintain national food security. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Orr. I think, yeah, you're getting a round of applause from this end of the table for that, especially number 6. Thank you. Next.